This was happening. Louise felt a rush of excitement go through her body. Finally, she could feel something other than misery. A slight distraction was nice to have. She could do something good for Great Uncle Billy, the man who saved her. They finished their tea and went out front as the midwives scurried around their home, gathering their supplies. The circle out front was large enough that all 7 of them could stand in the outer ring, defined by small, smooth rocks. The center patch was all dirt, with a black, scorched triangular shape in the middle. Grass surrounded it. The midwives had used the circle before. It didn't take long for the ladies to come outside and join them. They walked slowly. Hoods were over their heads. Each one held a rock in their hand. Rowan also held a book in her free hand. One by one, they walked up to the ritual site where the rest of the group waited. "There's nothing to fear," Rowan said. She could obviously sense the excitement and anticipation. "We'll need everyone around the edge. Please, joining hands." The 3 ladies went to the center patch, placing their stones at the edges of the scorched triangle. Each rock had an icon painted in white, gold, and black. Louise was too far away to make out the details on the icons, but it was clear one illustrated fire. The other had various lines, and the third was a pile of rubble. Fire, pain, and ruin. That had to be it. Louise recalled clearly what the ladies had told her and Lisa that day in the forest. The midwives were drawn to certain aspects of life. That was their power. The midwives joined hands, with Rowan in the middle. Elise grabbed Vivian's hand. Rachel grabbed Lisa's. Louise held onto her sister's and Great Uncle Billy's. They were ready to begin. "Force of She, we welcome you," Rowan began. "Aid the natural course. Aid us today to give breath to new." Rowan continued to chant while everyone held hands, repeating the phrase, "Give breath to new." Louise felt her hand get clammy as it pressed against Great Uncle Billy's and Lisa's. Clouds began to cover the sun. The forest darkened. Rowan continued to speak new words. Everyone continued to chant the same. Elise initiated a slow waving motion, followed by Rowan, then Rachel, and onwards. Thunder erupted. The wind began to pick up. Louise looked up at Great Uncle Billy. He stared straight at the midwives as Rowan continued to lead the group. Louise felt the ground begin to rumble. The 3 rocks in the center began to shake subtly, then a little more rapidly. The rocks began to hover ever so slightly above the ground. Lisa gasped, then continued to chant. Louise's eyes widened. "A hoo!" came from a nearby branch. Louise and Great Uncle Billy both noticed an owl. "Stop," Great Uncle Billy said. "Bless this family, nature, mother, and all binding forces of the world," Rowan said. "Rowan, you must stop," Great Uncle Billy shouted, freeing his hands. "Bring clarity and life to where there is none," Rowan boomed. "Hoo!" came the owl's cry as it soared down from the branch, flying over the ritual site and toward Rowan. Lightning struck the center of the circle, blasting dirt into the air as the bird passed by. The force pushed everyone back. Lisa and Louise struggled the most, but held on to each other tightly. Rowan yelped as the bird's talons slashed across her face. Everyone's chanting stopped. The rocks in the center fell back to the ground. The pebbles that outlined the circle had been pushed aside. The clouds began to clear up. The thunder ended. The wind calmed down. Clear skies surrounded them once more. "Damn it," Rowan said, breaking free from her sisters to clutch her face. "It's broken," Elise said. "What do you mean?" Great Aunt Vivian asked. Rachel held on to Rowan as she began to collapse to the ground. "Something's wrong." "We shouldn't have done this," Great Uncle Billy said. "What's going on?" Great Aunt Vivian asked. Lisa and Louise stared, watching the distressed adults. They had no idea what was happening. It was clear that this was not good. Louise felt ashamed. She might have made everything worse. One thing was certain. There was no trickery in this magical event. "This is not how the ritual was supposed to go," Rowan said. She panted heavily, still covering her face. Blood flowed down her neck. She relaxed in her sister's arms, eyes closed, breathing heavily. "We need to clean that up," Great Aunt Vivian said. "Billy," Elise said, "you said stop. Why?" Great Uncle Billy nodded to the branches. "That owl. Munat." Elise and Rachel exchanged glances. "Elaborate, Billy. Is there something you didn't tell us?" Rachel asked. "My curse," Great Uncle Billy said. "What does that have to do with owls?" Elise asked. "Munat, she was here. The owl. She can shapeshift from her true form." "It shouldn't have," Elise muttered. "We've dealt with demons." "Yes," Rachel said. "The demon was your mother's bidding." "My mother," Great Uncle Billy said. "She made a deal with the demon Munat so she could give birth to me. She was naive. She was unaware that it would bind my soul to the demon. Now I have to feed my hunger to please her." "This is unsettling," Rowan said, her eyes still closed. "I can't see this being an issue," Elise said, repeating her words. "We've dealt with demonism before." "Do not be too alarmed," Rachel said. "Please. We will study this. Demons can't enter sacred rituals. The three of us have never crossed a demon that can." "Munat is no ordinary demon," Great Uncle Billy said. Rowan's voice was grave. "We opened the door to something. I can sense it." "Sister, please," Rachel said. Lisa went up to Louise with a frown. She didn't need to say anything. They were both thinking the exact same thing. They had ruined this for everyone. The two of them had turned a positive thing into a nightmare. No one had answers about what this was, and they would have to wait for what the midwives had to say. Great Aunt Vivian began to cry. Pain. Great Uncle Billy's hands clenched into fists. Fire. Louise soaked in all the chaos. This was her fault. Ruin.